if you're two guys in a garage or two entrepreneurs or one entrepreneur or a small, resource strapped nonprofit, then maybe that's the way we should look at this productivity gain and say there is something good in that.
Welcome to Town, where tech meets the road, where CTOs share the tales and the comments. So from startups to big names, innovations unfold. How many CTOs will share their stories untold?
Hello, Brad. Welcome to this week's edition of How Many CTOs Does It Take to Screw in a Light Bulb? My name is Scott Porad, and this is my trusty co host.
Brad Heftigaub.
And I don't think it's really how many CTOs does it take to screw in a light bulb. I think it's how many CTOs does it take to screw in the AI.
The AI. It's all about the AI these days. So many AIs.
All AI, all the time. I just got off the phone talking to a startup about their AI. You told me you've seen some things on the internet that about AI this week, and I saw some things on the internet this week about AI, and I posted something on LinkedIn that went viral about AI.
There you
So it
go.
looks like it is all AI all the time.
Yep. Where should we start?
We should start with Apple Siri.
Okay.
I asked Apple Siri something simple the other day, something that ChatGPT voice back and forth could answer in one harp with its little pinky finger, the easiest thing. It was something along the lines of, "Hey Siri, what time is the kickoff of Monday Night Football?" Something like that,
Tuesday.
something so simple, right? And it couldn't do it. It just showed me the link. It just gave me a list of links from a search, and I thought to myself, how is Apple so far behind on this?
Yeah, it's super weird.
How
It's
is it
super
they
weird.
haven't just done a deal with OpenAI? They
Yeah.
did a deal with Google and Yahoo and all those things to be the search provider. You think they could be doing a deal with those guys?
I have heard nothing but the same kind of complaints that you just had about how poorly Siri looks in the context of, you know, and by the way, Siri just decided that I wanted to talk to it. I'm not talking to you, Siri. Um, that how how far behind it appears, uh, based on kind of everything else that's happening in voice-based agents. And so you're not alone in the perception that it makes no sense that Apple's so far behind on this.
Makes no sense.
One of the theories that I have heard is that they are being more conservative. They're waiting for the trends to continue. They believe that price performance is going to come way, 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 way down, and that they've been doing, like they announced at their last dev days a couple months ago a bunch of essentially on-device small model stuff.
Mhm.
And so, it could be that you know, they don't really have a cloud business. They're one of the few they're one of the Mag 7s that don't have a cloud business
Mhm.
really. And so they're all about their devices. And so the theory that I heard was, hey, they're just focused on let's wait, just drive these models onto the devices themselves
Mhm.
and um not play in the cloud game. Now, that's a strategic decision on their part. Don't know if that's a good one.
It's a strategic decision that I think will lose them device users.
Well, to your point, like as far as you're concerned, you don't care whether Siri is actually running on the device or is on some cloud thing, something like that. So you're just like, why? I just want this thing to work correctly, and it's not working correctly. So it does feel like the device is failing you.
Yeah. And if Google is putting that in their device, people are going to be like, this is better. I can just talk to this thing and it just tells me when Monday Night Football is.
Yeah, fair enough.
This might be another hypothesis. Apple has always taken the position of privacy. They've tried to
Yeah,
stake out that ground, and maybe they're not able to have a solution through Siri that meets whatever standards they have.
maybe.
Okay, well, what have you seen in AI this week?
Well, I saw a couple things that I think were super interesting. One of the things that came out, this was not this week, but pretty recently, was this Axios, this kind of political newsletter, did a survey, and this was kind of like right before the New York mayoral election, and so they basically found that um, a plurality of voters in each of the 8 states that are the most hotly contested swing states. So, a plurality of voters in each swing states have an unfavorable impression of the AI industry. That AI will raise their energy costs. This is certainly one of the things that we're seeing, and that they believe increased use of AI will make their lives worse. The higher the income, the more favorable swing voters were towards AI, and the more likely they were to believe that it would make their lives better. And in some states, Republicans were essentially split on AI, where independents and Democrats all held unfavorable views.
Hmm.
So this is kind of a sort of a, I mean, we don't usually talk about politics on this podcast, and because there's so much to talk about with tech anyway. But this is an interesting place where it's like, public opinion is going to read on tech, and Colorado just passed a new state law, and California has a really restrictive state law. I heard the Colorado law has like individual rights to sue if you believe your in any of your like individual liberties have been restricted or infringed by AI. So it's
Hmm.
like some really super like broad wording. Like what does it even mean, right? Like my civil liberties have been somehow violated by AI. Like what does that even mean? And so now what are you going to do? Are you just not like you can't ship an AI based product to Colorado for fear that the individuals will be able to sue your company? So that's kind of that's also a little bit like I mean, you know, that sounds like that's going to put some kind of a damper on AI innovation.
It's going to make work for AI lawyers.
Make work for the lawyers. That's a we know maybe.
I think the energy. I'm glad. I shouldn't say I think. I'm glad that the energy concern is percolating because I have an energy concern.
Well, the cost of energy has been skyrocketing around all the locations that the big players are building. Guess what? Ding, ding, ding. Data centers.
Hmm.
And that tips into my next little piece of data that I learned. I think in a recent episode, you and I were talking about this, and I kind of talked about this whole like challenge around like this circular revenue, and a lot of these big players are like basically, kind of doing these deals that no cash changes hands, but they
Hmm.
all are both booking revenue. Well, another piece of data is that the Mag 7, so the Apple, Facebook, Google, etc. Those guys, they're apparently in the last quarter they had more than 60% of their free cash flow was spent on building new data centers. So they're building data centers like crazy, and data centers are all going to consume and drive up local energy prices. So even if you ignore the potential like climate impact of all this construction and energy usage at the consumer level, like if a data center goes up near your house, your energy costs, or in your state, your energy costs are going up. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I mean, like I said, man, the rent's too damn high.
The rent's too damn high. I don't want to get too deep into politics, but I will add one puzzle piece to this, which I heard or read lately, which was, some states, they tend to be redder states, have more, liberal, easier to work with sort of zoning and land use and development laws. And then as a result, things like data centers and wind farms and solar farms and things are getting built there. And that was causing a little bit of a backlash. So it's interesting how all these things are intertwined with each other.
Yeah.
And I wonder also, so I think I've said this before on the podcast, and if not, I'm going to say it now, which is I worry about the climate impacts of this stuff. Like, is the value we're getting from the fact that I can ask the AI when Monday Night Football is, when I could easily just go look at the TV program, and when is that worth
Like
it?
the TV guide. You still have those paper copies of the TV
Yep.
guide.
Every week I get a little TV guide at my house. No, but you can easily go look up, just ask Google what time is, you could type it in, what time is Monday Night Football. Um, and so I do worry about the ROI, so to speak, on the climate. And then there's the other thing is, are we seeing an overinvestment here? Right. I mean, like, is this an arms race? Are we going to have a bunch of zombie, like shopping malls, like a bunch of zombie data centers out there.
Well, yeah, and I think that's kind of what I was saying before is I'm starting to hear, analysts in the space who are bullish, whatever techno optimists who are saying like, oh yeah, like I mean there was I just heard this interview with where Sam Altman was like, oh for sure we know that there's going to be an overbuild. We just can't predict we have such demand right now. We're still building as fast as we can, but surely there'll be some kind of an infrastructure overbuild. So like the idea that like the head of the parade of like, AI optimism is saying, "Oh, I am certain that we are overbuilding infrastructure." Right? Like that seems like a pretty big deal to me.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I guess there'll be a cool thing that comes out of that, which is that we'll see the price of tokens hit the floor when basically everybody's got these capital investments that they just want to get anybody to use them. So they're going to bring their margins basically down. It's going to be the ultimate commodity, unless I guess some models can really do. Well, data centers will be the commodity because it's just power, it's just electricity. I guess the models, unless they can really differentiate themselves, will be commodities too. And it seems like I'm starting to get the vibe, not no pun intended, that of the models I pay attention to, it's Claude that's sort of starting to differentiate itself a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I mean, I think there's no doubt that another interesting podcast I heard recently, which there was some sort of classic Elon problems with the statement that he made here, but he was basically making the case that like, of course, like token prices are going to fall, of course, because everybody's working to try to make the more compute happen with smaller effort, right? Like that's the big thing. And he like compared like the amount of electricity that the human brain uses, which is like ridiculously small. It's measured in watts, not, gigawatts, right? And how much, and he made some statement about like, look, we built all of humanity, on this small power consumption. Now,
Well,
that's ignoring, the network effect of a lot of humans and history, and that's the, language and the major thing that we do, but again, I think this kind of speaks to the whole trend of conversation, right? The trend of conversation in the leaders of the parade is all around, yeah, we're pretty sure we're overbuilding. Yeah, we're all trying to basically lower the compute cost. Yeah, we're all kind of like building like crazy right now, but we think this is all gonna the prices are all coming down. And so, that's like this is very, very similar to the turn of the century, the turn of the
mm-hmm,
millennium,
mm-hmm.
when it was all about building out fiber
All about fiber.
and like the same exact type of just on the edge of kind of dicey financial transactions that Enron went over the edge
Hmm.
and broke the rules on. That kind of stuff, that circular revenue, that stuff is happening right now
Yeah,
with
yeah.
these big players.
But hey, the stock market's going up because of it, so we're all benefiting from that, right?
Unless
Until,
your electricity prices are going
yeah,
up.
that's right.
So it's interesting. I just think it's an interesting thing. Like what's going to happen here? If again, like we put our CTO hat on, right? Like there's no doubt in my mind that like my engineers are benefiting incredibly from this. Like they're so much faster than they were even a year ago. And to you mentioned that you kind of posted that thing on LinkedIn this week about like you know what vibe but verify, right? Like it's for real, it's happening. But is there all of a sudden is there some backlash coming, even bigger backlash that's coming? What's going to happen then?
If history is a lesson to be learned from, there is a backlash coming. I don't know what it is or when it's coming, but I think it'll be coming. I see a lot of uses of AI that aren't very interesting. So, for instance, on my stationary bicycle at home, there's now an AI summary of the ride that I'm about to do. It's like, really? Is that necessary? So, you mentioned LinkedIn. I actually had a post on LinkedIn this week that went viral. Before I tell you about my viral post, though, can I tell you about another post I saw that has nothing to do with AI, but
Yeah, sure.
simply has to do with sage wisdom?
Okay.
Kent Beck, you know the name Kent Beck?
Yeah.
I think Kent Beck might be a little bit of a curmudgeon, but I also think he's very wise. And he told me on LinkedIn, and he wrote this message to me personally and basically to everybody else that follows him. So it wasn't really personal. Uh, he said that his washing machine told him that two undersized loads is more effective than one oversized load.
Oh,
And he said, even my washing machine knows agile principles.
I love it.
I loved it too because it's true. It's really true. Okay, I wrote a post that went viral this week. Every once in a while, you just put something out there, and
Yeah.
thousands of people glom onto it. And I started my post with these words: a rant on AI. That's probably what got everybody's attention.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what pushed the algorithm.
I had read something, we may have discussed it here. According to an MIT study, AI is being used most effectively for back office efficiency so businesses can cut costs and make more money. Hooray. And then I asked the question, what about doing good for the world? What about making people's lives better? I am still looking for these kinds of AI uses. That's what's most interesting to me about AI. I would be grateful if you left examples in the comments. And I got many comments with some that I think are good examples and some that I don't think are good examples. To me, that's the most that's what I'm interested in with AI. That's what I've been thinking about. I think people, listeners of this podcast know, certainly, I was never like an AI naysayer, but I've been on the back edge. I haven't been on the front edge of AI like you've been on. I've been on the back edge of AI. And where I'm at right now is like, okay, this is cool. There's lots of cool stuff happening here. Like, but I'm not really interested in like saving a minute of time for some people in some department somewhere. I'm interested in doing something that is interesting and cool and change.
What was the best example that people gave you?
Gosh, the best example, I'll just read you a few. First of all, people, technical people can sometimes become sticklers. Have you ever noticed that? That chuckle means you've noticed it. You've seen that happen before.
Yes, I've seen that.
So the notion of AI and ML get a little mixed up sometimes.
Oh yeah, sure. Did some of your ML buddies respond?
One person said, I read about a fork, like an eating utensil, that canceled out hand tremors to make
Oh.
it easier for people to eat. And then another person chimed in and said, well, that's really ML, that's not AI. Another person said, and this was interesting, and this is a person who I really look up to. I know, actually, all these people are people who I know, just about. Another person I really look up to said to me, well, I work with a lot of resource strapped not for profits, and for them, saving a little back office money is really meaningful.
Yeah.
So, oh, that's interesting. That's a positive way to look at it. Another person actually just listed a number of examples. I actually have not gone through all of the examples that he listened to, but he just pointed out places. Something called AlphaFold, which is helping drug design. Duolingo, which, by the way, I don't know if you know this. I am a Duolingo user, rocking a 750-day streak on Duolingo. Talked about. He pointed to some examples of how Anthropic and OpenAI are trying to get into AI for science. I don't really know exactly what they're doing. Open Door, which is trying to, I guess, solve some problems in real estate. I'm not really sure. That wouldn't be possible without sort of deep research AI. So that's just some things that got mentioned. I'm just scrolling down here. This person pointed out a company that managed to save, I don't know if it was a person, actually, I don't know exactly who, but someone saved a bunch of money in hospital bills.
Yeah.
Here's another list of things that people, I'll just stop after this one. This person, I don't think I know who they are. Now, see, this is where I think it gets interesting, right? Okay, this person said, look, just last week he saved 5 hours in lawyers doing stuff, 100,000 a year in SaaS costs, which allowed him to hire another person. He automated accounts payable so he could get his vendors paid faster. And so I don't know if those are actually really that interesting. And then it goes on. There's lots more comments here. For the 39 people who listen to our podcast, just go to LinkedIn, find my profile, find my post. You'll find this
Well,
one.
your LinkedIn profile is always in the show notes, so they just click on that
There you
and
go. There you go. So I
get
don't know,
right
but
there.
that's the stuff I'm looking for that I think's interesting, to try and.
I don't want to be in that stickler department like AI versus ML, but Carbon Robotics, they're a local Seattle company that's built a laser weeding tractor, and they have like gathering all this photographic data, and they're like, boom, for sure, it's all ML, it's all AI in that sense, and
What is a laser weeding tractor?
it's basically like I think somebody even said this on your post about pest control. Basically,
Mm,
it's all for farmers to basically get higher yields out of their fields because they
mm.
don't have to put pesticides, they don't have to put herbicides. They can basically like use this tractor, and it's automated. It just like drives up and down the field and like
Pew,
zaps
pew,
zaps
pew,
the weeds.
pew.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
They've been.
cool.
I know the founder Paul Mikesell of that company. Paul's a super smart guy. Worked with me back in the day at Real Networks. One of those 10x engineers for sure.
Super smart people, man. They got to be super smart these days.
Yeah.
We need AI for dummies. That's what I'm going to make. I'm going to make AI for dummies. And it's where you can just ask it stupid questions and it gives you answers, at an appropriate level.
I don't want to say we already have that in Siri because Siri will just like light up again and think I'm talking to it. How do we boil this down into like actionable things for CTOs and for executive engineering people, or how do we be better partners with our other stakeholders?
I'll tell you about a frustration I have actually in a hot take I gave to the CEO I'm working with this week. And I hope I'm not going to get myself in trouble for this, but what's the worst case scenario? I get fired. What's the worst case scenario? I get fired and then I can't pay my mortgage and then I'm homeless and then I die. And there's worse ways to go. So, and there's a stop in there before homeless. There's a stop at my mother-in-law's house where my mother-in-law and my wife, one of them, end up killing the other and going to jail. And so,
Wow, it's a dark turn we just
it's a
took.
dark
So
turn.
let's hope that doesn't happen.
It's easy. I see this happening in our company. It's easy to find opportunities to make people more efficient. And when I said to our CEO this week, I was like, can we just stop doing everything, all the make more efficient stuff? Just forget about it. I mean, people want to do it, but like, let's stop putting emphasis on that. Could we just figure out how to use AI to actually achieve our mission, which is well, our mission is to change lives one task at a time is actually the name of our mission. But like, how can we actually like provide our service better with AI? Like that is what is going to grow our revenue, which is going to grow this business, and ultimately, which is going to serve that mission. Like, because people naturally go to, I can do this thing to write this document faster, or we can do this thing to automate this thing in accounting, because it's just very tangible, right? Like, but it's harder to get the momentum going on the product slash business side. So I guess if there's a lesson I want to say to CTOs out there is, try to channel that AI energy towards actually making whatever you're working on better. And that can be difficult. And I'll tell you something we're doing. We're about to have an AI focused hackathon coming up pretty
Yeah.
soon. Actually, we're not calling it a hackathon. We're calling it let's just call it a hackathon. We have a different name for it because we want people to be a little bit more expansive than that. But like, create some space for people to just go play and figure out what could we do with this. Like, I have an idea that I want to do at this hackathon of like what we could do. Um, but in my day to day, what we're focused on, what our business priorities right now is not taking a week to screw around to do Scott's silly idea that maybe it'll work, but we're going to create some space for people to do that. So I think that's something that as CTOs that we can do to create the room for people on our teams to find ways to use AI to have meaningful impact on the world. as opposed to just meaningful impact on the bottom line of the
Yeah.
company. I don't totally mean to sound like a Marxist here, but like, so, and I'm not, by the way, but like, um, I just feel like so much of what we do is something about this technology revolution compared, like, what have I been through? I've been through the first dot-com boom, so the e-commerce boom. Well, actually, let's go back. The first dot-com boom had a few parts to it. It had online media and it had e-commerce. And then I
Yep.
went through the social media boom. And then I went through the gig economy boom. And I went through the cryptocurrency blockchain boom. And now I'm like in the AI boom. And I feel like for some reason, this one, more than any others, naturally, not through any malicious intent, just naturally is lending itself to benefiting the capitalists as opposed to the proletariat. Oh, the bourgeoisie as opposed to the proletariat, right? And so I guess as leaders, we have to use whatever. Well, I guess if you're a Marxist like I am now, apparently, I guess we have to. I guess
Come eat.
we have to. We have to use whatever influence we have to say how can we actually use this technology for better for the consumer, as opposed to just better for the bourgeoisie. And
So,
that's my take.
well, and yeah, so this is definitely getting into the politics and philosophy, and it'll be interesting as I ponder how I want to respond to that. There's a version of I sort of feel like I kind of want to play devil's advocate with this.
Do it.
There's a fair amount of what you just said that I 100% agree with. And then the argument that I've heard to counter that is, but what about the entrepreneurs? What about the two guys in the garage? They now, they the one person that said something like, "Hey, I work with a lot of like small cash-strapped nonprofits, and they spend quite a bit of time, trying to figure out how to be more optimal in their usage." So to me, that story, this idea that like, well, there's not anything it's not the case that the only people that benefit from efficiency gains and productivity gains are big corporations with lots of people where you end up doing rifts because of that productivity gain. They're not the only places that productivity gains result in good things. I mean, that's your point about the capitalists, you know, basically get more done, get the same amount done with less people.
Mhm.
But if you're two guys in a garage, or two entrepreneurs, or one entrepreneur, or a small, resource strapped nonprofit, then maybe that's the way we should look at this productivity gain and say there is something good in that.
I agree. I agree with that entirely. And I saw that comment there before, and I'm glad we went through those again because it makes me think. Okay, to me that's interesting. Somebody saying, I'm going to make this up, I don't know, I'm making a flux capacitor such that community health organizations can manage their caseload more efficiently, and then they can take on more patients, and so on. I don't know, whatever would work. Like, well, there you're saying, hey, I'm going to use AI to actually do some good for the world. And so you're right, it just seems like, at least maybe it's just the space I'm in, is I just see people tend to lean toward just making employees more efficient. But I guess what you're saying is, depending on the context in which you're in, whether you're in a big company or a small company, actually making employees more efficient has different benefits.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's an interesting way to think about it. I guess, okay, maybe I'm just a jerk actually.
No, I mean, there's this concept that you hear in like in venture capitalists. They often get around and they talk about like, oh, or sell side analysts or whatever. They get it together and they're like, oh, that company needs to get more fit,
Hmm.
get fit, right? And that's like large corporation speak for increase productivity and cut staffing, right?
Hmm.
Like lower costs as part of productivity gains, and that basically means lay off people, riff
Hmm.
people, right? And I'm sure you've been there before. Like I know I've been there where um when it was, roaring, hey, 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 we were, hire like crazy because you're just trying to move as fast as you can, and and everybody's super busy, so you don't have time to think about efficiency. You're just busy cranking stuff out as fast as possible. And it's a true statement that like companies in that particular part of the cycle, they will hire people that they don't necessarily have something for all of them to do long term, right? And
I've never had
so,
that problem.
I mean, I mean, I've definitely had the problem of growing too fast and growing beyond our means,
Mhm.
and then later kind of coming back and going, we
Yes.
probably didn't need to hire all those people.
I was responding to not having something to do. Yes, absolutely. That's a pattern I see very consistently at companies I've been at. Companies just get out over their skis.
And so in those environments, in a world where, I mean, this is an interesting, like, if AI can help me take my current employees and make them more productive, then maybe I won't accidentally hire people that aren't sustainable for me. So that's another version of the productivity has a different lens.
Interesting.
And if you're the solo entrepreneur who's trying to bootstrap, then that's definitely where you're at, right? You're just trying to get as much done as you can with the least amount of resources possible.
Okay. And now the solopreneur, the small business person, that's interesting. I got a question for you. In our world, in the technology world, like there's kind of like frameworks you can get. It's like it's a whole package. I'm wondering if we could make like AI, this is kind of like a business idea. AI solo entrepreneur in a box. Like
Yeah.
you just you got everything here. You've got your people operations, you've got your finance, you've got your um, marketing website. I don't know what else even you need. You got your legal AI stuff. It's all right there. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a layer on top of some best of breed stuff. But like, really, it's almost like kind of like a Workday or a Zoho kind of thing.
Yeah, Zoho's an example of that, and there's a handful out there that like, kind of I mean, I don't know all of the names of them, but definitely there's when the gig economy thing was taking off, like, and all the states started cracking down on like self-employment, then there was a boom in companies that basically were like, "Oh, we'll help you form your LLC, and also while we're at it, here's the solo entrepreneur in a box. So
Yeah.
here's your built-in, boilerplate legal contracts. Here's your built-in, we'll sell you business insurance." And so,
Oh,
yeah, I mean,
all the good ideas are gone.
well, I mean,
What,
there's
what did
probably
that guy in the patent office say like in 1921? I
I don't
don't
know.
know. It was everything that could be. We don't need a patent. It was like the head of the patent office. And it was like, we don't need a patent office anymore. Everything that's been invented we've invented it all.
Anything that can be invented has been invented.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who could imagine anything else?
yeah, exactly. All right, so there is this tension around like productivity gains and the implications of that for everyday workers, and then there's the tension